Happy Friday, everybody! Welcome back to this week's edition of the Industrial Cyber Weekly Roundup, with the latest developments in the industrial cybersecurity space. I'm Bailey, your host. This was week 4 of 2023, so let's jump in, shall we? Recent technology advancements have caused SCADA and ICS networks to become more exposed and vulnerable to malicious attacks from cybercriminals and state-sponsored attackers. This has led to a need for the industry to focus on broadening the training of cybersecurity professionals, breaking necessary barriers while also closing the skills gap. One of the identified challenges for facilities and security teams is the misconception that IT security and ICS security are the same. Employers are also faced with the lack of cybersecurity training programs and curriculums that teach not only a solid foundation and basis of knowledge, but also operational skills that focus on key objectives based on an employee's position. Other obstacles include sourcing and retaining cybersecurity talent, which is one of the most pressing issues facing industrial enterprises. As for the top news stories, the U.S. CISA, NSA, and Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, or MSISAC, released a joint cybersecurity advisory warning network defenders about the malicious use of legitimate remote monitoring and management software. The campaign highlights the threat of malicious cyber activity associated with legitimate RMM software. After gaining access to the target network via phishing or other techniques, malicious cyber actors are known to use legitimate RMM software as a backdoor for persistence and/or command and control. The U.S. GAO proposed in its latest report that the federal government must develop and execute a comprehensive federal strategy for national cybersecurity and global cyberspace. Additionally, federal agencies must mitigate global supply chain risks, develop a government-wide reform plan that addresses the cybersecurity workforce shortage, and ensure the security of emerging technologies. For a more comprehensive federal cyber strategy, GAO said that the federal government needs to address missing elements in the National Cyber Strategy and Implementation Plan. The FERC called upon the NERC to develop new or modified critical infrastructure protection reliability standards that require internal network security monitoring for CIP networked environments. The decision is going to affect many high-impact bulk electrical system cyber systems with and without external routable connectivity, and medium-impact BES cyber systems with external routable connectivity. The NIST released a concept paper seeking additional input on the structure and direction of the cybersecurity framework before crafting a draft of CSF 2.0. The paper delves into the changes NIST is considering for the development of CSF 2.0, some of which have been suggested to be more substantial. The planned modifications are based on a large amount of input received so far, including the NIST Cybersecurity RFI and the inaugural workshop concerning CSF 2.0. The U.S. Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee has asked the GAO to examine the national security risks posed by private consulting companies that concurrently contract with the U.S. government and Chinese government or Chinese state-run enterprises. The bipartisan move raises concerns that these contractors' outside work with adversaries like the Chinese government could create conflicts of interest that undermine national security. The UK's NCSC disclosed that Russia-based Seaborgium and Iran-based TA453 hacker groups continue to use spear phishing attacks against targeted organizations and individuals in the UK, primarily for information gathering activity. NCSC added that the attackers specifically target certain individuals or groups using information known to be of interest to the targets to engage them. Australia's CISC released a risk assessment advisory for the food and grocery sector. It assesses that the international and domestic threat landscapes continue to evolve. Natural hazards are becoming more prevalent with longer-lasting impacts, and critical infrastructure networks continue to be targeted globally by both state and criminal cyber actors. Trend Micro researchers disclosed that they have evidence that the Vice Society ransomware group is targeting the manufacturing sector, in addition to focusing its efforts on the education and healthcare industries. The findings throw light on the fact that the group has the capability and desire to penetrate different industries, which it most likely accomplished through the purchasing of compromised credentials from underground channels. Mandiant researchers disclosed that it is tracking a suspected China Nexus campaign called Bold Move, believed to have exploited a recently announced vulnerability in Fortinet's 40OS SSL VPN as a zero-day. Evidence suggests the exploitation was occurring as early as October last year and identified affected targets to include a European government entity and a managed service provider located in Africa. Dragos evaluated with high confidence that ransomware groups will continue to disrupt industrial operations, whether through the integration of OT kill processes into ransomware strains, flattened networks allowing ransomware to spread into OT environments, or precautionary shutdowns of OT environments by operators to prevent ransomware from spreading to OT systems. As some governments are considering an outright ban on ransomware payment, Dragos assessed with moderate confidence that the activities of ransomware groups will decrease in the countries where the payment is banned and increase in other countries where they can achieve their financial objectives. Sentinel Labs has been closely following the Dragon Spark attacks that are suspected to have originated from a Chinese-speaking actor. These cyber attacks have been targeting East Asian organizations and have been under watch for some time. The attacks are characterized by using the little-known open-source Spark Rat and malware that attempts to evade detection through Golang source code interpretation. SynSaber reported that 35% of reported common vulnerabilities and exposures in the second half of 2022 are unpatchable or remediation currently available from the vendor. These CVEs register an increase of 13% from the first 6 months of the year, and 33% required a firmware update. The report said that it is important for asset owners and those defending critical infrastructure to understand when remediations are available and how those remediations should be implemented and prioritized. Nozomi Networks announced the availability of Nozomi Arc sensors that extend visibility across endpoint attack surfaces and reduce time to resiliency through faster deployments. It supports vulnerability assessment, endpoint protection, traffic analysis capabilities, and more accurate diagnostics of in-progress threats and anomalies, such as identifying compromised hosts with malware, rogue applications, unauthorized USB drives, and suspicious user activity. Whew, it was a busy week in the industrial cyber industry. Visit industrialcyber.co for the in-depth stories, industry news and events, and related resources, and we'll catch you back here next week.